Good afternoon, everyone. Well, good morning. It's actually only 10 o'clock. Getting ahead of myself. I want to do a video on White Eagle. He's a First Nation leader back in 1800s and early 1900s. Came across his name and kind of just looking for people to actually do journeys on this. His name stood out. I've worked a lot with white eagle energy. This came up many times in many of my journeys. I'm not saying it's the same, but it caught my attention. So I wanted to go a journey and see what he has to say to help the human race at this time, because we all know we need help. We need a lot of help actually for what we've been going through. So I'm just going to go right into the journey, and right off the bat, it's very like loud. It's a very loud sound, and it echoes for a long time, and then there's another loud sound, and I'm still identifying the sound because it's very different. It's like it's a noise that comes from far away that comes past you really, and it kind of gets louder and louder and louder, and then really loud, and then quiets down and continues on. And it's not destructive, but it does change your energy. And it's interesting, if you put your hand out and do this, you can actually absorb it into your arm like this. It's like, and you can look at it, and you have a handful of stones. And each of the stones are round, not round, oval in shape, smooth like river rock. And they each have a symbol on, they have symbols on it, and you can put them between your hand and shake them and roll them onto the ground, into a pond, into a pan or something of water. And the stones hit the water and they create like this certain type of symbols that they show. And I see a man looking at this, staring at the stones. And the pan is full of tears from this man, actually. They represent tears, or at least water mixed with tears, because he sees what's going to happen. He was born into knowing what was going to happen. And he lived a lifetime where it's been a horrifying experience throughout this man's life. He lived a lifetime where everything was taken. He did the best that he could to do what he could in the situation, but everything was taken from them. It feels like that. Because he starts off with full, like, very beautiful outfits, regalia, and then all of a sudden everything's tore from him and he's naked. But he's still strong. He still sits strong in that position, even though he's naked. He doesn't care. He looks at the rest of the world and they're staring at him, laughing and spitting on him, and he doesn't care because he knows who he is and he's very firm in it. And so ridiculously strong in his stance. And it's like they can't take your dignity away, even if they tear all your clothes off and spit on you and throw feces and whatever else. They still can't take your dignity away unless you allow them to. They can't take your spirit. He refuses to allow them to take his spirit. It's like ridiculously, like, he's a very, very strong person. I would like to have met this person, because he is so ridiculously strong in his stance. He's like a mountain, unmovable, unbreakable. This is what I see. This is what he wants to show to the world, because he wants to show to the world that if everything's taken from you, you have lost nothing except the clothes off your back. You can't lose your spirit, and that's who we are. We're not anything else. Everything else is just stuff. Everything else is just stuff. Absolutely no meaning. In a larger scope of things. And he puts his hands out like this, and bang, there's a massive explosion, and I see a galaxy in front of him, around him. He sits here, actually, and the galaxy's in this part, and he's looking at the galaxy. What does this mean? And he holds up an actual piece of gold, a gold nugget. He says, what's this mean to the universe? What's a painting? Like, he's going through all the different things. None of this has any meaning to the scope of the universe. Except so many people, and there's a lot of greedy people. Like, I see them like pig people off in the distance, and they're in the shadows, and they have their little piles of treasure. And then he snaps his fingers, and they all die, and there's nothing left except piles of treasure that eventually get covered in dust. And it shows the pig burning in hell, and say a fiery pit, say for instance, burning and burning and burning and burning and burning and burning. And then he reaches down and pulls them from the fire, and he says to them, have you learned your lesson yet? Does any of this have any meaning to you? And he places the pig person back in the pile of treasure. He does this over and over and over and over again until the person walks away from the treasure, takes off their clothes, and stands on a beach looking over the ocean and cries for weeks, if not days, months, years. And it's like they walk out into the ocean and they raise their hands up into the air, and they ask for help. This man comes down, and they see that he's First Nation, and they said, who the hell are you? And he puts his hand out, and a person slaps it away, and again he gets pulled into hell and goes through time and time and time again, and the only hand that's ever there is his, until the man eventually realizes that all he had to do was take the man's hand, and he would go to heaven. And there's a long silence when this man takes the First Nation's hand, White Eagle's hand, and White Eagle pulls him up to heaven. And there's a very long silence, but there's also a lot of joy in this. The actual patience of this man is unbelievable. He would spend thousands of lifetimes to help this one soul that hated him all the way through, until that man finally realizes that and lets go of all his burdens in life. All he had to simply do is take his hand and let go of all the things that were illusions, were pointless, none of it was real. And to understand that everyone is equal in this world. And how much it took this man to simply just figure that out. That man comes back as a baby and grows and teaches his friends, his parents, about what he remembers a part of his soul, remembers what he learned. In this lifetime, he spends his whole lifetime teaching people. And there's so many closed doors, so many people spitting at him, throwing things at him. And he spends lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, till eventually he also takes one soul and teaches them the same things that he was taught by White Eagle. And now he stands beside White Eagle, and they both reach their hand out and finally bring this man into heaven. And now there's 3. And it continues on and on and on and on until every soul on earth will be brought to heaven. That's what he wanted to show and teach the world. That's his message. Thank you very much, everyone, and that was a pretty amazing experience. The one part that is always missing is the feelings you have inside your heart about what that really meant to me and to White Eagle, and the understanding of how powerful that feeling can be. Thank you very much, and if you wish to do a journey with me, you can visit my website at amonrosawakening.com. You can also go to my other pages, yukonskies.com and josephbradleyroars.com. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.